Hey everybody, Nick here, and today we're going to take apart this little guy right here. This is the Protech Knives TR5 Assisted Knife. This is an assisted knife. There is a very strong spring in here that is pushing this guy open. It is not an automatic knife though. I press this button, nothing happens. Right? You have to hit the thumb stud to get this guy to fire. But there is also a string to 10. I have no idea, practically speaking, how this guy works. The internals of this are a mystery to me, but they will not be for long. So we're going to go ahead and pop this guy open. Now, this is a Protech, and Protech, among many other things, uses hex-style screws. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to take out my other toolkit here. Curious about this or any of the other toolkits I use on the channel, nickshabazz.com/tools, and I'm going to go ahead and just grab the proper hex size, which appears to be 2.0. Would they have used American? Maybe. Either way. A standard, that is. Let me just double check that. It might be a slightly tighter fit. It is a slightly tighter fit with a 5/64. Why are we not on one system, people? Okay, now did you see the idiocy I was about to do? I was about to disassemble an assisted knife with the blade shut. That's a bad idea. This has a substantial spring in it. And so, in fact, what I'm going to want to do, it looks like I have to attack this from both sides, but by the time I start taking everything fully apart, I want to be in control of this blade. Because, look, I don't particularly care if everything else goes flying here. I'd rather it not. But I'm not really super concerned about that. What I am concerned about is this blade not going flying. And so I'm kind of keeping some fingers on the blade here to kind of press it down against the table a little bit. And I have these back two screws out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grip the blade. And it looks like I need a different driver for this, maybe 3/32. That is indeed the measure. And so I'm grabbing the blade here. This blade is not going to be able to go anywhere. There could be some shifts, there could be some movement, especially as I take the rest of things apart here. But at the same time, the part that is most dangerous, effectively, is not going anywhere. And so this is sort of a basic safety precaution, but it's a good one to take, I think. Go ahead and try and twist this bad boy out here. Pull it out there. And take this out here. Now at this point, I should be able to lift this off. I'm going to move my pivot. And by the way, they're using a big chunk of a red thread locker, but it wasn't grippy in the same way that red Loctite is. So, not sure what's going on there. Next question is, do I have to remove the clip? I don't think so, because, no, I don't. Because I can see the bottoms of the clip screws here are just ending up in this gap here. So whatever else is in here is that's locking things down is inside the knife itself. So it could just be tight tolerances around the big pivot in the middle there. So what I'm going to do is kind of just move this around a little bit. Maybe from this side here. Why are you not coming apart? Continuing a nice firm grip on the blade at all times here. There we go. I think I feel things wiggling a little bit there. Pressing the button lock button's helping a little. It looks like there are some additional stabilizers like here and here. So that could be what I'm having to get off of things. And we are coming apart. It's just being nice and slow about it. The other thing I can try and do, actually, is to push the pivot through. It doesn't want to, so I'm not going to try and force it. All right. I've disengaged the button lock here. I'm just kind of wiggling the blade a little bit back and forth. This is really... Oh, yeah, no, it is slowly parting at the very back here. It's just taking its very dear, very sweet time with it. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Pop this guy. Let's give it a little bit more movement there. I think it's just sort of held on because all of these pieces are vertically aligned. Can I do... So I'm trying to, a series of motions all along the length of it here. Hopefully that'll start to pop things a little bit looser still. But this is really... Am I being an idiot here? It's very possible. What could be holding this knife together that is not visible here? There are no inlays that could be hiding a screw. So that's not the case. There are no other screws on the knife. I mean, there are these clip screws, but I literally see the bottoms of them here, so they can't be holding anything in place. Similarly, there aren't screws under the clip, I don't believe, because... Wait a second, hold on. That's a lie. Look at this. There's a little tiny... I think I see the edge of a screw hole under that clip there. So let me try that. Let me go ahead and take off the clip here. Is this thread locked? No, just tightly installed. This could be holding things together if there is an additional screw back in there. There is. Oh, I was on the highway to the danger zone there. No wonder this freaking knife wasn't coming apart. There was one more screw hidden underneath the clip. And so even though I could see the bottom of the clip screws, I couldn't... I didn't occur to me that there could be another screw underneath the clip itself. Okay, I'm re-entering the danger zone here, so I'm holding everything down and together. Maybe it's going to be the case that once this screw pops out, everything's going to reassemble itself readily. So I need to be in a position to hold on to everything. But, oh, boy, that was scary. Scary not so much in the sense of something almost happened, but scary in the sense of... Had I not stopped and asked that question, I could have really injured this knife if I'd put more force in. Okay, now what we're seeing... Things aren't moving a whole lot better at the moment, but let me start doing a little convincing here. And... Come on. Poppity. Using this little plastic lever here, yeah, that's coming apart a little bit more readily now. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling this guy is starting to come apart. While I'm checking, are there other screws here? Could there be other screws here? This back part still isn't separating much. Boy, I'd sure love to have this spring out of play. Come on. Now I'm going to use this little tool here. This is from iFixit. If you're curious, by the way, about any of the tools I've used today, go to nickshabazz.com/tools. This is effectively a guitar pick, but it's also very nice for getting in and separating surfaces like this. And it's made of plastic, so it's not going to harm the aluminum here. Nice and easy. Yeah, okay, we're finally starting to get a little bit of space on this side. Oof. There we go. I just felt something moving a little bit more. Wow, sneaky. Glad I noticed that. I'm glad I tried that. Ooh. Come on. Come on. Pop it on loose there, broski. Open it up. No? Is anything else doing this? Okay. Yeah, we're continuing to come apart, just very, very slowly. Where else am I being dumb? I'm not, I don't think. Well, okay, I don't think, but that don't mean much. Again, trying to keep a pinky finger resting on the blade here. Keep it separated. Wow, this thing is tightly put together. I just popped it back closed again on the front. And that's actually strategic, because it could be that it needs to sort of come off in a manner where it remains parallel the whole time. Am I... No, I just popped it back altogether closed. Man, this is being a giant pain in the neck here. That's probably a spring right there. I'm seeing a little tiny gap there, right? So I bet that's a spring. And I bet that there is a separate spring. There's the detent. Okay, we can see the detent down there. So that detent is sitting in a... Looks like there's a separate coil spring there. Okay. I'm going to try closing the blade. That's really dumb. But it'll give me a different perspective on things. Okay. Now at that point... Okay, we're continuing to pop open on this side. I'm wondering whether maybe some of the thread locker got inside there and is kind of sticking things together. But last time I said something like that, there was a freaking screw there, so what am I doing? Come on. And I'm not using a lot of force here. Yeah, okay, we're slowly working our way apart here. Not a straightforward disassembly today. Really not. Am I able to wiggle this backspacer in any way? I am not. What's this action? That couldn't be another screw. No, okay. Got missing hidden screw. Traumatic stress at the moment. Let's see here. How else can I attack this problem? Can I get this pick into this gap? Yes, I can. Once I've got this pick in this gap, that gives me a little tiny bit more leverage to spread these halves apart. And once that happens, that's giving a little more leverage spreading in the back here. And once I can get this pick in the back here, I'm going to be in a much better position, because that'll allow me to kind of slide things the rest of the way open. Okay, there we go. So now I can see a gap. And here's the nice thing. As I see this gap, I see that there is no screw, no screw, no screw, no screw, no screw, no screw, no screw. Only all the way back to here is where there's something. And let me just use a flashlight real quick. In the name of utter caution. Yeah, there's no screw there. So it looks like it's just a little bit hung up. Maybe there's a fixturing pin or something like that. Not fixturing, a stabilizing pin under there that's kind of having some trouble coming apart. But okay, I want to grab back onto the blade now. This is not getting high marks for repairability, right? Or at least ease of repairability. It's not a thing. Ability and ease are different. But anyways, let's go ahead and continue trying to pop here. Is that a thing? There does appear to be a thing in the middle here. See that? Now the question is whether that's just, again, a little stabilizing pin or something else, but there's unfortunately only one way to find out. And enough of those stabilizing pins can actually, that could be what we're seeing right there, is a separate pin that's having some trouble coming loose. Because there's a little protuberance, a little push out right there. Oh boy. I really wish there were a way to get the blade out of play here. So I've just disengaged the button lock, hoping that would maybe relieve some stresses on the system, but it didn't help. Come on. Okay. Now we're cooking with gas over here. Hopefully what I can do is kind of just work this along the way. Okay, yeah, there we go. We're spreading. Oh boy. Well, that was cool. So we have one stabilizing pin here. And It almost looks like this one's been like peened in or something like that. Maybe this ain't coming loose. Is this knife not disassemblable? I feel like they would have told me something about that. Knowing who I am and who well, they know me. But it almost looks like this has been peened in a little bit. Okay. What I'm going to try and do is pinch the button lock back together. There we go. So that's all pinched back together. That should put everything back in parallel. Let me try and work it loose on this side first. There we go. Okay, so now the back side is loose. And there is indeed a locating pin in there. And that part there doesn't look like anything, but now what I'm going to do is try and work this front part loose. Yeah, okay, here we finally freaking go. Needed to bring things back into parallel because of the thickness of this locating pin. I mean, that's going to it's going to stabilize it quite effectively, but at the same time makes this whole process a pain in the neck. There we go, pop that loose. Okay, now is a separately dangerous time, because I don't know what this detent looks like. So there could be another spring in play that I'm not thinking about. I'm going to pop this loose back here. Come on, there we go. And then lift this scale off. I'm going to put my hand on top of it. The reason I'm doing that is just to catch any springs that may come loose. But there are no springs that are coming loose. That's how the detent works. Okay, that's nice. Now what I'm going to do is put my finger on the button lock here. That'll keep it from flying off into oblivion, because there is a spring underneath it. Oh! Okay. Well, that was a whole freaking process right there. And it turns out that the back spacer itself is screwed in on one side. So I am not able to get... that's why I wasn't able to separate it on the one side, just on the other. This is not screwed in, but it is just a very, very tight fit on this side, and we have disassembled the knife. Okay, so now, how the hell does this thing work? What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to just kind of theory craft how this is doing. So when this guy is closed, the detent is... In order to close the knife, you have to get this detent bar pulled slightly that direction. And that bar is mounted to these two half-moon springs. And so the detent goes up into this area here. And then in order to open it, you actually need to exert a little bit of force to get past, to pull that out of that, allowing it to then come flying open. Okay, this makes some sense now. So I understand this detent. This detent is the combination of the spring force of this little arm here on both sides, as well as of the particular curvature of this little bit here. And now we understand what's going on. Oh boy, that was a very touch-and-go disassembly. In the future, if you were doing this on your own, the better way to go about that... Actually, there really aren't that many better ways to go about it. One thing to make sure you do is to take out all the damn screws. That's an important thing, and I'll mention that in my review. But really, it's just you're going to have to very slowly work that back spacer off, and it only comes off from one side. That was not a straightforward disassembly. We're in, everything's good to go. No damage was done, but oof. I would very, very much... Oh, and look at that. I don't know whether that's anodization or it could actually be a little bit of thread lock that's gotten into there, but either way, a little something going on there. And I'll go ahead and I'll clean the backlock spring, or I'm sorry, the backlock, well, I guess spring cup or the backlock, button lock. Spring cup there. And really, there's not much else that we have to do here. I will actually use a Q-tip here and go ahead and clean out this little gap in the middle here. Beautiful. And beautiful. Now we get to go the other direction. Put this guy back together. So let's stop and think and strategize for a moment. A few things need to happen. I need to make sure that this tab is in this little slot here. That is going to make sure that everything snaps back together in the proper orientation. So there's that. Before I do that, though, I need to lubricate that back part. And to do this, I'm going to use a little bit of knife pivot lube. I'm going to throw my rubbing alcohol over myself here. So I'm going to go ahead and place some lubrication along this surface right here. I'm also going to put a little bit of lubrication along the detent area here. Sort of this surface here might be helped. It is an interesting detent mechanism, though. It's very nice to see. Not that the ball detent, there's anything wrong with it, right? The Waka ball detent is a great thing, but it's just, it's what everyone's doing. So, okay, then I'm going to put a little bit of lubrication right there. Now, there's a spring holding this blade down, and so that's awkward, but I also need to install the button lock. And oftentimes, button locks won't install when the blade is fully seated and down. We'll see whether this is one of those oftentimes. It is. So what I have to do is I need to lift the blade up a little bit in order to get this button lock seated underneath it. Kind of need to angle it in there. There's not really a great way to show this off. There we go. Okay, now the button lock is in place. Now I need to work the blade back down onto the pivot, making sure, yeah, the spring is still in its position. Come on, there we go. So now the blade is holding the button lock in place, which is what we need. Now I need to make sure that this detent bar goes into its proper hole. Is there anything else? Are there other posts? Are there any locators? No. Okay, so I need to make sure that this goes into there. I need to make sure that the detent hole goes into where it needs to go. The button lock goes where it needs to go. It has now gone home. The detent is in the process of going home. The spring is still in its little groove down there. This little guy here needs to, that's in its home. What I may have to do to get everything on this side is to put the button lock, press the button in. And now there's going to be a moment where everything snaps, just like that. And we are good to go. Now the real question is everything else working? Okay, yeah, everything's working. All right, now, before I push my luck any further here, I'm going to go ahead and put this guy back in its position. I'm using a little bit of blue thread locker there. I need a bigger screw for the pivot here. There we go. And here we go. There is that. Now I need to put into place, and I don't think that's the proper tightness yet, but I don't care, because my bigger priority is to put the screws in position in the back here. So let me grab my screws and put it in first there. Oh boy, this was an odyssey. A very textbook definition of a knife whose disassembly, the juice ain't worth the squeeze, right? The knife itself is great, but unless the action is markedly different on the other side, I am not going to be recommending my viewers go down this road. That's fine, but it's just, oh boy. That was that was touch and go. Okay. Actually, before I put the clip back on, let me double check that I have everything in position. Centering is more or less good. There is blade play, though, so I need to tighten the pivot here. Dislodge the Torx from one of my screwdrivers, so I got a separate driver for the pivot. Tighten that down a little bit more. Still deploys like crazy. A little loose still. Tighten a little more. Centering's good to go now. Still a little bit of blade play there. Tighten down a little more. That was a little too tight. And I'm making very small adjustments right here. There we go. The tent is working great. The little tiniest little bit of play there. Tightening a little further. There we go. Now we will tighten this down, tighten this down, tighten this down. We are centered. I will install the clip using my T6 driver and some thread locker. 26 minutes, oof. There is a class of comments I get on my disassembly videos where people look at the time and they immediately know how much ease and or pain I am facing in the process. So you're like, oh my God, 26 minutes. Uh-oh. Let me go grab some popcorn. This is going to be one of them. Grab your popcorn. Well, a little late for that. You'll listen to this. Okay. So at this point, there's maybe the tiniest bit of blade play here. Let me see if I can maybe tweak that just a little bit more. That's not the right bit. Put that away. Maybe, just maybe. Just a little tighter. No, that's a little too tight. Now that everything is, actually, here's what I'm going to do. Now that everything else is screwed in, I'm just going to completely loosen the pivot here and then tighten it back down again. Sometimes that lets some of the tensions out of the system. Makes things a little easier. Just a little tiny bit of play. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do better than that, because if I tighten further, let me try it one more time here. I may lock things down too much. See, that's visibly slowing the action, and there's still a little bit of that play. So there's a little tiny bit, but it's not quite to the level that's concerning. There we go. All right, so there you go. Oof. That was a whole odyssey. But we have it apart and back together. Everything's working great. We have a better sense of how that the tent works, and we've done some learning here today, specifically about the hidden underclip screw right here, as well as these guys here. So, yikes. But anyways, luckily I've been carrying it some, and it's a great knife aside from that, but disassembly is not a strength here. So, anyways, let's go ahead and carry this guy a little bit more for review, and I will let y'all know how I felt in the long run in the in the review. So, hope this has been interesting. Have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.